Hello kids, welcome to my YouTube channel Jyoti Knowledge Hub, and I'm your learning buddy Jyotirmay. Okay, so today I'm very much excited because we are going to start with the first chapter of the science syllabus of class 7th. Okay, that is of NCERT, and the name of the first chapter is Nutrition in Plants, which comes under the Unit 1 Food. So let us start with the chapter. Now, you all know that the whole living, or not living, the whole world is divided into living things and non-living things, right? Living things or organisms. The living things also are known as organisms because they have life in it. Okay? So that's why we call the living things as organisms. Have some basic characteristics that differentiate them from the non-living things. Okay? So if we want to draw a chart over here, okay, we have two parts here, that is living and non-living. And living things are known as organisms. They are known as organisms because the living things have life. Yes, they have life, whereas non-living things, they do not have life. They do not have life. So, because of this characteristics, the living things and the non-living things, they are different. Okay, so this is the basic characteristic by which we can differentiate the living and non-living. What do you mean by characteristics? Characteristics are like the properties of every organism. Okay, these characteristics are called life characteristics. As I told, the living things are having life, so they are called as the life characteristics. Some of the life characteristics are nutrition, respiration, growth, response to stimuli, etc. These are the characteristics which defines the living organisms. Okay, that means because of having life, they are having this all characteristics like nutrition, respiration, growth, response to stimuli, etc. We will learn about this in the latter part of this chapter. What are all this in details? So you can see a very beautiful picture is given over here, and it is asking to circle any 5 life characteristics displayed by living things in the picture below. So you can see this girl is doing the exercise or yoga over here. This is one of the life characteristics. There's two girls, they are running. It is also one of the life characteristics. This boy is also running, and this boy is talking by phone. That is also one of the life characteristics. Okay, so like that you can find 5 characteristics which displays that the living organisms are having life. I hope you got it. Okay, now in this chapter we will learn about nutrition in plants. But what does the term nutrition mean? Let us find out. Okay, before learning about the chapter, we should understand what is the meaning of the heading of this chapter, that is nutrition. What is that? Okay, so nutrition. Organisms need energy to live and grow. We all know that the living organisms, they need energy to live and grow. And where from this energy comes? From the food. Yeah, we take food to get the energy. If we will not take food, we will not get the energy. This energy is often from food. As it is written over here, we get the energy from the food. And this energy is helping us to do our day-to-day activities. Correct? The substance broken down by chemical processes in the body of an organism to give energy is called the food. Now, what is food? The definition of food is, it is a substance which is broken down by chemical processes. That means when we take food, our body breaks it into small parts by chemical processes. Our body inside our body, a lot of chemical reactions takes place. By the help of that reactions, the food is broken down into small soluble forms by which the body can derive the energy, or by which the body can get the energy. So that is known as the food. Okay. Now the process by which the food is taken in by an organism and used by its body, that is called nutrition. It seems same, right? But they are different. Nutrition means after you have taken the food, how the food is utilized by our body, that is called nutrition. Did you get the difference between the food and nutrition? Let me explain it again. So food means it is a substance which we are intaking, okay, for getting the energy, and that is broken down by our body by various chemical processes, okay, so that our body can utilize it. So that utilization of our food to provide our body with the energy, that process is known as nutrition. Okay, so nutrition is the process which is making our food utilized by providing our body with the energy, so that we can do our day-to-day activities, or our body can also do the activities. Like in our body we are having a lot of processes like circulation, excretion, respiration. These all processes need a lot of energy. So this energy is provided by the food, and the process which provides the energy for doing all these activities from the food, that is called nutrition. Okay, so there are two main modes of nutrition. Okay, so nutrition is of two kinds. Nutrition is mainly divided into two types. Okay, as you can see over here, two main modes of nutrition: autotrophic and heterotrophic. Okay, one is autotrophic and one is heterotrophic. Now what is autotrophic nutrition? Autotrophic nutrition is only possible in case of green plants, and remember that it is green plants. It is properly specified here, green plants. Why green plants? Because those plants have a special pigment that is called chlorophyll, okay, because of which it looks green in color. So because of this pigment only, these green plants are able to make their own food through a process called photosynthesis. Okay, only it is possible in case of green plants, note it. Okay, it is not possible in any other colored plants. Green plants, they have a special pigment called chlorophyll. Let me write here. The green plants, it is not mentioned in the book over here, so I am writing here. The green plants, they have a pigment called chlorophyll, which is a very important pigment that provides the green color to the plants, and this pigment is only helping to do the process called photosynthesis. Okay, what do you mean by photosynthesis? Photo means light, synthesis means to put together. In this process, the light energy, that is the sunlight, that energy is used by the plants to make the food, and plants make their own food. We animals don't make our own food, right? Don't confuse yourself with the cooking. Okay, while cooking also, whatever ingredients that you're using, that we obtain from the plants itself. So plants are the only organisms which make their own food. That's why it is known as autotrophic nutrition. Auto means they themselves make their own food. Okay, so the mode of nutrition in which an organism makes its own food is called the autotrophic nutrition, like the green plants. Organisms that follow the autotrophic mode of nutrition are called autotrophs. They are known as autotrophs. Auto means self, troph means nutrition. Okay, so it was so easy to understand and to remember. So only to remember is about the chlorophyll pigment, which is helping for photosynthetic process. Okay, now let us move to the heterotrophic nutrition. So before moving on to the heterotrophic nutrition, here it is given about photosynthesis. Now let us learn in details about photosynthesis. Now what is photosynthesis? As we learned, photo means light, okay, and synthesis means to form or to put them together. Now the term photosynthesis was coined by Charles Reid Barnes in 1893. Okay, plants take in carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and water from the soil. So in this process, the plants are taking carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and water from the soil. You know that the plants have roots, they're having the root. So from the root, they will absorb the water. Water is taken in from the soil by the roots. And by the help of the leaves, they take carbon dioxide from the air. Okay, water and carbon dioxide. And this water, it reacts with the carbon dioxide in the presence of light. This water that is absorbed from the soil by the roots and the carbon dioxide that is absorbed from the air, both of them react. You can see this equation over here. Carbon dioxide and the water, both of them are reacting with each other in the presence of sunlight and the pigment chlorophyll, as I told it earlier, which is very much important for this process. So in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll, they are reacting to produce sugar and oxygen. This sugar is the food that is obtained from the plants. Okay, you must be thinking we are getting this like potatoes or vegetables and fruits. Yeah, in all these the products, the sugar is present. This sugar is converted into the complex form, okay, and that is converted to like the various kinds of vegetables or fruits that we are getting. Okay, so here the sugar means the food that is produced by the plant. So here the sugar so produced is stored in the form of starch. As I told, the sugar is converted to the complex form, that is the starch, in various parts of the plant, and oxygen is released. Let me repeat it again. So the carbon dioxide that is absorbed from the atmosphere and the water that is taken or absorbed from the soil by the help of the roots, they are reacting in the presence of sunlight and the chlorophyll to produce sugar and oxygen, and this sugar is getting converted to starch, okay, which is stored in the various parts of the plant, and this oxygen is released into the atmosphere. So can you notice one thing here, that these plants, these green plants, they are acting like the air purifiers, correct? Because we all human beings, we all animals need oxygen for our survival, right? Without oxygen we cannot survive. We take in oxygen and we give out carbon dioxide. So that carbon dioxide is absorbed by the plants in this photosynthesis process and they are giving out oxygen. That means they are purifying the air. So the more you plant the trees, the more the oxygen percentage will increase in the air, and the air will be more and more purified, correct? So we should not cut down the trees for our own reasons. We should always try to plant more and more trees. So the reaction that is taking place in the photosynthesis, you can write it like this. It is very, very important for the exam purpose, in which it can be asked to write the reaction that takes place in the photosynthesis process. So this is a very important reaction. You should remember this. Carbon dioxide plus water in the presence of light and chlorophyll, they are forming sugar and oxygen. And what is photosynthesis? That is also a very important question. So how to write what is photosynthesis? The process of using the energy of light to convert water and carbon dioxide into sugar and oxygen is called photosynthesis. So simple. The whole equation, you can write it in the form of statement. It is a process in which the energy of the sunlight is used to convert the water and carbon dioxide into sugar and oxygen in the presence of chlorophyll. Okay, so this is the photosynthesis process. This is the definition. What is photosynthesis? This is the equation for photosynthesis. And who has coined the term photosynthesis? Charles Reid Barnes in 1893. Okay, now a very important question, very important question. What are the conditions necessary for photosynthesis? That means, what are the conditions which are required for photosynthesis, without which the photosynthesis process cannot take place? So the first condition is the green pigment called chlorophyll. As I have already mentioned, it is a very important pigment which is required for photosynthetic process. Otherwise, this process will not take place. As I told, there are many different colored leaves also. We can see red or purple leaves. In that case, the photosynthesis process does not take place. So only in the green plants which are having the chlorophyll, in that case the photosynthetic process takes place. So that is the first condition which is very important. Second is the light. Without light, the photosynthesis process will not happen, because in the presence of light only, the carbon dioxide and water, they are getting converted to the sugar and oxygen. Next is carbon dioxide. Obviously, carbon dioxide and water, they are the ingredients which are reacting with each other to give sugar and oxygen. If both of them are not present, then the photosynthesis reaction will not take place. So, what are the 4 conditions that are necessary for the photosynthesis? The first one is the pigment chlorophyll. The second one is the light. Third is carbon dioxide. Fourth one is water. Okay, now what is chlorophyll? So the chlorophyll is a pigment. Okay, now you may ask me, what is a pigment? So as you can see over here, it is written, a pigment is a naturally occurring substance that gives a particular color to a plant or an animal part. Do you know that we human beings also have a pigment which gives our skin a coloration, as a dark colored or fair colored, light colored? So in our skin we have a pigment called melanin, okay, which gives our skin a color. Same way, the plants also have a pigment which is a naturally occurring substance that provides the color to the plant, like for example chlorophyll. So if chlorophyll is present, then the plant will have the green color. So it is usually present in the leaves. Mainly the chlorophyll is present in the leaves, and it is present inside a structure called chloroplast. Okay, there is a structure, okay, inside which the chlorophyll is present. Like we put the color in a box, right? Or in a, yeah, we put a color in colors that we have for paintings and all. We put it in a small box or some space, right? So here also same way, the pigment needs to be stored in a space, and stored in a space. That space is called as the chloroplast. Chloroplast, you can see this round structures which are present over here. Inside this, the chlorophyll is present. This chloroplast are the structures inside which the chlorophyll pigment is present. Okay. Next is the light. Light energy is absorbed by the chlorophyll. Okay, light, as we have seen that light is a very important factor of photosynthesis. It is absorbed by the chlorophyll. So when the photosynthesis reaction is taking place, the chlorophyll is absorbing the light. Okay, and this light activates the chlorophyll, which makes the reaction to happen, photosynthesis reaction to happen. Okay, so this was all about the photosynthesis. Next, carbon dioxide. It is obtained from the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide is obtained from the atmosphere through the small openings called stomata, which is a very important question. Okay, carbon dioxide, how the leaves are absorbing the carbon dioxide? Obviously they must be having small pores, right, through which the carbon dioxide is absorbed. That small openings or that small pores in the leaves are known as stomata. Singular we call it as stoma, plural it is known as stomata. Mostly present on the underside of the leaves. Mostly present on the underside of the leaves means the lower side of the leaves. Underside means the lower side of the leaves. Leaves are having two sides. Okay, upper side and lower side. So upper side the stomata presence is very less. Lower side the stomata presence is more. So mostly it is present on the underside of the leaves. Underside means the lower side. Okay. Now this is the structure of the stomata, or you can say stoma, which is singular. Now this is the closed stoma, that is, it is the open stoma, and this diagram is very important. It can be asked in the examination to draw the structure of the stoma. Now closed stoma, here you can see that each stoma is bounded by two half-moon shaped guard cells. You can see over here, these are the two half-moon shaped guard cells. These two half-moon shaped guard cells, these act like the guard. Guard means like the security guards. Okay, the guard cells regulate the opening and closing of the stomata. These guard cells only are helping in the opening and closing of the stomata. Same here, when the stomata is open, or when there is enough light and water, the guard cells, they swell up and curve away from each other, thus opening the stoma. This allows carbon dioxide to enter the cells of the leaf. Okay. Now what happens when the plant is absorbing the water and the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, water from the soil. Okay. So what happens, the guard cells, they absorb the water. They will absorb the water, like you must have seen when we put the raisins. Okay, we put the raisins inside the water, the raisins will swell up after some time. Same way, when the guard cells, they're absorbed in the dry condition, when the water is not absorbed, the stomata will remain closed. Okay, mostly this condition you can see during the night time when there is no light. If there is no light, the photosynthesis process will not take place, and during the night time only the guard cells they will be normal and the stomata will be closed. But during the daytime you can see this very nicely. So here the guard cells, they will absorb the water and they will swell up. So because of the swelling, they will go away from each other. The guard cells were like this, now they will become like this, forming a hole or a gap in between. Okay, because of the swelling, because they've absorbed the water, and thus the carbon dioxide can enter through this pore. Okay, which helps in the photosynthesis process. So in this way the stomata is closed or opened by the help of the guard cells. The guard cells regulate the opening and closing of stomata. Okay, now as I told, this diagram is very important, so practice these two diagrams which can be asked in the examination. Next, let us move to the water. Now the root system of plants, you know that the plants, they have roots which helps them to like get fixed in the soil. Because of the roots only they are fixed into the soil, and these roots only help for absorbing the water and the nutrients for the growth and development of the plants, right? So the root system of plants enables them to obtain the water from the soil. Okay, the root only helps in absorbing the water from the soil. The root system consists of a main or primary root. You can see this. Okay, this main root or the primary root, this is called the main or the primary root, which is present at the middle here. And the rootlets or secondary roots, these are the rootlets or the secondary roots. It is marked over here, and this diagram is also very important, that is root system. Okay, it can be also asked in the examination. So this is the main root or the primary root, and from the primary root whatever roots are emerging out, they are called as the secondary roots. Okay, and these are known as the root hairs. From the secondary root, whatever hairs you can see here, small hairs like this, they are called as the root hairs. Root hairs, they increase the surface area of roots. More the number of root hairs, more is the surface area of the root. So these root hairs, they are increasing the surface area. Surface area means the area by which the water is getting absorbed. Okay, so more is the surface area, more amount of water will be absorbed. And is a very important function of root hair. What is the main function of root hair? Root hair increases the surface area of roots and are found in great numbers near the tips of the roots, which helps in absorbing the water and soluble nutrients in more amount. Water is also absorbed, and it is also mentioned here soluble nutrients. Why? Because those nutrients which are soluble in water, they will get absorbed along with the water, right? Insoluble nutrients cannot be absorbed through the roots. So water and soluble nutrients, they travel through the root system and reach the leaves. So you can see this is a magnified version given over here to see how the water is absorbed by the roots. So this is you can see the secondary root, and this is the root hair, correct? And these are the soil particles. These are the soil particles. Now this is the root hair, and the water is, and these are the air spaces that are present in between the soil particles, and this is the water that is present. So the water is directly absorbed by these root hairs, okay? And from the root hairs it will directly enter to the secondary roots, and from the secondary roots it will enter to the primary root. So like that it moves on. So along with the water, the soluble nutrients are also absorbed, and they're transported from the roots to the other parts of the plant. So from the down, from the bottom of the plant, they will be absorbed and they will be sent to different parts of the plant, that is upwards, that is the leaves, stems, wherever it is required, okay? And that is done by a structure called xylem. Very, very important term, xylem, Xylem. We read it as xylem. This xylem is responsible for the transportation of water and soluble nutrients, okay? Only water and soluble nutrients. This xylem is helping in the transportation, and it will help to transport this water and soluble nutrients to the extreme parts of the leaves, okay, to the tip of the plant, even to the upper tip of the plant. And in the photosynthesis process, the sugar that is formed, which is converted to the starch, as we have read earlier, is transported to the various parts of the plant by structures called phloem. This is phloem, phloem, phloem. This is another structure which helps in the transportation of the sugar or the food that is produced by the plant, okay? So this is a very important difference between the xylem and phloem, and it can be asked in the examination. What is the difference between xylem and phloem? Xylem is a structure which helps in the transportation of water and soluble nutrients from the roots to other parts of the plant. But the phloem is a structure which helps in the transportation of sugar or the food that is formed as a result of photosynthesis, and they will get transported from the leaves to the different parts of the plants. Water and soluble nutrients are from the roots, but the food will be transported from the leaves to the different parts of the plant. This is the main difference between the xylem and the phloem. So here it is a very important point written over here. Xylem and phloem help to transport the substances within a plant body. How? This is the answer, okay? So xylem and phloem are like our blood vessels we have in our body, okay? In the human body we have blood vessels, right, which helps in the transportation of the blood. Same way the xylem and phloem is helping in the transportation of these nutrients, okay? Complete the equation given below. As I have told, equation is very, very important. So here it will be carbon dioxide plus water in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll. It will form sugar plus oxygen, okay? Name the reaction process shown above. What is the name of the reaction? Photosynthesis. And name the 4 things necessary for this process. We have learnt about the 4 conditions or the 4 requirements, okay? The first one is the carbon dioxide, second is the light, third is the water, and the next one is the pigment called chlorophyll. These are the 4 things that are necessary for the photosynthetic process, okay? Now let us move on to the another type of nutrition that we have seen, that is heterotrophic nutrition. Heterotrophic nutrition. Hetero means depending on others, not self. Auto means self. Okay, so hetero means dependent on others. Some plants do not contain chlorophyll. Okay, as I told, all the plants, they are not green plants. Some plants, they do not contain chlorophyll. Some grow in places where they do not get enough light. And there are even some plants, though they are green in color, but they grow in such a place where they don't get enough light. In such cases, they cannot perform the process called photosynthesis. Such plants are not able to carry out photosynthesis, correct? These plants which are not having chlorophyll and which are not getting enough light, they cannot carry out photosynthesis and depend on other organisms for nutrition. I think you must have heard about the carnivorous plants. Have you heard about it? Those plants which eat the insects and they get the nutrition. Okay, like Venus flytrap is a very, or pitcher plant. These are very good examples of carnivorous plants. They eat the insects, they trap the insects, and from that only they get the nutrition. They do not perform photosynthesis, and these plants are very beautiful. However, some plants, even though they contain chlorophyll and carry out photosynthesis, depend on other organisms for certain nutrients. Okay, this is a very important statement where you saw that there are even some plants which are having chlorophyll also, which are getting enough light also, and they can carry out photosynthesis also, but still then they are depending on other organisms. Why? Because that is not sufficient for them. They require certain nutrients which is not possible by this process of photosynthesis, which is not possible to get by the process of photosynthesis. So they obtain it from different methods, okay, that we are going to learn. So such kind of plants which are depending on others, or yeah, to get the nutrition, that is called heterotrophic nutrition. Okay, so let us learn in detail about it. So the mode of nutrition in which an organism depends on other organisms. As I've told, the mode of nutrition in which an organism depends on other organism for food is called heterotrophic nutrition. Okay, hetero means depending on others. So heterotrophic nutrition is a mode of nutrition where the organisms are depending on others. And the organisms which follow this mode of nutrition, they are called as heterotrophs. Like autotrophic nutrition, the organisms were known as autotrophs. So in this case, the organisms are known as heterotrophs. Now heterotrophic plants are of the following types. So you can see very nice like chart is made here to divide the heterotrophic plants into 4 types: parasitic plants, saprophytic plants, insectivorous plants, symbiotic plants. Let us learn about all these plants in detail. Now parasitic plants. A parasitic plant is one that partially or completely depends on another plant, called the host for nutrition. Okay, like for example, let me give you a very simple example. Mosquito. Mosquito is a parasite, okay, and it depends on the human beings' blood. So the human beings are the host. Okay, to make you understand what is host, I have given this very simple example. Mosquito is the parasite and human beings are the host on which the mosquito is dependent. The same thing here, parasitic plants. So these plants are depending on another plant. So that plant is known as the host. But these plants are either partially or completely dependent. Okay. Usually parasitic plants develop special roots which penetrate into the tissues of the host plant. So how the parasitic plants are obtaining the food? They are very, very clever. What they are doing, they are developing special roots. Okay, as you can see over here, such a nice picture is given over here. See, these are the different kind of parasitic plants, and here they are developing special roots which penetrate into the tissues of the host plant. They will enter into the tissues of the host plant. The prepared food is generally absorbed from the root or the stem of the host plant. Now, the root is entering inside the host plant, and inside the host plant, the host plant is the plant which has prepared or which can prepare the food by themselves. So, these parasitic plants are absorbing the food from the root or the stem of the host plant. Okay, some examples are cuscuta, that is dodder, and mistletoe. So here very nice examples are given over here. Cuscuta or dodder has a short root and a long thread-like stem. You can see over here. It winds around the host stem and sends branches around neighboring stems. So many branches it is forming at the and it is entering inside the tissues of the host plant and obtaining the nutrition. Mistletoe has leathery green leaves and it can make its own food. However, the plant still depends on the host for minerals and water, as it is told that the parasitic plants are those plants which are either partially or completely dependent. Cuscuta is completely dependent on the other plant, but mistletoe is not completely dependent. It is performing the photosynthesis, it is making its own food, but still it is dependent on the host for the minerals and the water that is required for photosynthesis process. Okay. So, in a parasitic relationship, only the parasitic plant benefits. Okay. So, in the parasitic kind of relationship, the plant which is obtaining the nutrition from the host plant, that plant is only getting the benefits, right? It is getting the nutrition, it is getting the food and the water and the nutrients from the host plant. The host plant is not getting any benefit. Okay. It is losing its nutrients and all its food that it has manufactured. So here the parasitic plant is only getting the benefit. The parasitic plant harms the host here to some extent by slowing down its growth and sometimes causing heavy damage. Obviously, if the parasitic plant is obtaining the nutrition from the host plant by taking its food, the nutrients, the water, the growth will be slowed down in case of the host plant. So it is harming the host plant and sometimes it can cause heavy damage too. However, a parasitic plant rarely kills the host plant. Okay, rarely the host plant gets killed. Next, let us move on to the saprophytic plants. A saprophytic plant is one that obtains its nutrients from the dead and decaying plant and animal matter. Okay, saprophytic plants are those plants which are obtaining the nutrition from the dead and decaying plant and animal matters. Means the plant and the animal matter which is dead and it is decaying. They're already dead. From that only it is getting its nutrients. Okay, it is usually whitish, but some plants can have brightly colored flowers also. Okay, the saprophytic plants are generally whitish in color, but some plants are having brightly colored flowers. These plants often have no leaves at all. Leaves are not present at all. That means there is no photosynthesis, means these plants are completely dependent on the dead and the decaying plant and animal matter. They cannot produce their own food. They cannot manufacture their own food because they are not having the leaves, and leaf is the main center for the photosynthesis process to take place. They often grow in deep shade in tropical forests. In the tropical forests, they can be found under deep shade. That means they don't require light as well. Examples are the Indian pipe and the coral root. You can see the picture of the Indian pipe here. Is found commonly in Asia and North America, and the coral root is found in the forests around the world. These are colored flowers. These are colored plants, right? As it is told, this is whitish and these are colored. Saprose means rotting, phyton means plant. So since these plants are depending on the dead and decaying matter, so the rotting word is written over here, and so the name is given, saprophytic plants. Okay. Now, the roots of the saprophytic plants contain organisms called fungi. Okay. The saprophytic plants, in the roots, they are having an organism called fungi. You must have seen fungus, like if you keep a bread, okay, for 2 to 3 days, then you can see that some black colored structures are formed at the top of the bread. Okay, so that is called fungus. So the fungi convert the dead and decaying matter into nutrients that can be used as food, like the sugar, by these plants. Okay, so what is the function of the fungus in the saprophytic plants? The fungus, it is converting the dead and decaying matter, whether it is of plant or animal, but it is converting the dead and decaying matter of the plant and animal matter both into the nutrients which can be absorbed by this plant, which can be used by this plant. Okay, so directly the saprophytic plants, they cannot use this, so they are depending on a fungus which is present in the roots of the saprophytic plants. This fungus is converting the dead and decaying matter into such a form so that the plant can utilize it. Fungus or fungi are also called the saprotrophs. This fungi are also known as the saprotrophs. Okay, now next let us move on to the insectivorous plants. Insectivorous plants are the ones that derive some or most of the nutrients by trapping and consuming animals, mainly insects. I have told you already, right, about the insectivorous, or I said the carnivorous plants, because they depend on the insects. Like Venus flytrap, pitcher plant, these plants, they eat the insects for their nutrition. So these plants, they derive some or most of the nutrients by trapping and consuming animals, mainly the insects. These plants mostly grow in places where the soil is deficient in certain nutrients. The soil is not having certain nutrients. So to get that nutrient only, they are trapping the insects. Mainly nitrogen. The plants require nitrogen for the growth and development. So those soils where the nitrogen is deficient means nitrogen is present in less amount or it is not present at all. In that kind of soil where the plants are growing, these plants, they trap the insects and obtain this nitrogen. Hence, these plants need to obtain the required nutrients from other sources. Examples are Venus flytrap, pitcher plant, drosera, that is sundew, and bladderwort. These are very beautiful looking plants, insectivorous plants which trap the insects. Obviously, they need to look attractive and beautiful so that they can attract the insects. Otherwise, why the insects will get attracted? You can see this is the Venus flytrap. It's looking so beautiful, right? And this has leaves modified to trap insects. The leaves are modified to catch hold of the insects. The inner surface of the leaves have short, stiff hair. You can see over here. When an insect touches the hair, the leaves snap shut in less than a second. When an insect is touching this hair, no, then what will happen? It will very quickly, it will close. Okay, the leaves snap shut in less than a second. The insect is then trapped and digested. So these are the modified leaves, okay, which is helping trapping the insect. This is the pitcher plant, which is looking so beautiful, right? So the leaf of the pitcher plant is modified to form a tubular pitcher-like structure. You can see this is a tubular pitcher-like structure. Yes. So the leaf is modified into such a beautiful structure to attract the insects. The inside of the pitcher is lined with downward pointing hair that do not allow any trapped insects to climb up and escape. Wow. So inside this pitcher plant, if you observe, like you're having the hair in the Venus flytrap, right? So inside the pitcher, this tube, also there are hairs, but the hairs are pointing downwards so that the insect cannot climb up after it is getting trapped or after it is going inside this tube. It can also try to come out of this tube, okay, climb up, but it cannot climb up because the hairs of this tube that is present inside, it will not allow because they are pointing downwards. Okay, so because of their pointing downward structure, the insects trapped, they cannot climb up, okay, and escape. So the fluid at the bottom of the pitcher contains digestive juices that digest the trapped insect. Okay, next, this is the sundew plant. Okay, so beautiful it is. Drosera. The leaves of the sundew plant have long thin structures called tentacles. You can see this here like long structures. These are known as tentacles, which have drops of sticky substance. It's looking like water, right? But they are not the water. They are sticky substance. We call them as mucilage. At their ends, Once an insect touches the tentacles, it gets stuck in the mucilage. It is like a fevicol. We can call it as a fevicol. Once the insect is touching this mucilage, it cannot go out of it and is unable to escape. It is then digested. Next, this is bladderwort. The slender leaves of the bladderworts bear a large number of very small pear-shaped bladders. You can see structures which act like trapdoors and suck in small insects in less than a second. These are like the trapdoors which when the insect will touch it, it will trap it and then it will be digested. Okay, so these are the bladderworts. So 4 insectivorous plants we read about it here: Venus flytrap, pitcher plant, sundew, drosera or bladderworts. Okay, these are the insectivorous plants. Next, the 4th category, that is the symbiotic plants. Certain plants live in association with other organisms, share food and other resources. Symbiotic plants are those plants which live in association with other organisms. That means it will not harm the host plant. Both the host plant and the plant which is dependent, they both share the resources. There is a sharing of food and other resources. There is no harming here. Okay, like in case of the parasitic plants, both these types mutually gain from each other. Okay, both these plants, they are mutually gaining something or the other from each other. Such plants are called symbiotic plants and the relationship is called symbiosis. Very famous example is lichens. Okay, lichens are symbiotic association between a fungus and a microscopic chlorophyll containing organism called green algae. You must have seen algae during the rainy season, the slippery road and all you find. So it contains the algae which are green in color. That means they are having the chlorophyll. If they are having the chlorophyll, that means they can prepare their own food. They can perform the photosynthesis. So the green algae, they produce their own food and they are having an association with the fungus. So what and how the fungus is helping? Let us see over here. The algae provide nutrients to the fungus. Algae is green in color, having the chlorophyll. So it will do the photosynthesis, prepare the food and give it to the fungus. And the fungus helps the algae to grow in harsh conditions and places where they would otherwise not survive. Fungus is providing shelter to the algae. Okay, fungus is providing the algae a home or a shelter where they can grow in suitable conditions. Okay, even the condition is harsh. The harsh means not suitable, no, not good for the algae to survive, but the fungus will make it suitable. Okay, it is helping the algae to make the conditions suitable for their survival. So that means we can say in one word, fungus is providing a home or shelter to the algae and algae is providing the food. That means both of them are getting benefited. Here nobody is getting harmed. So that's why this kind of plants we call it as symbiotic plants. So we learned about 4 kind of heterotrophic plants. Okay, the first one is parasitic plants where the host plant is getting harmed and the parasitic plant is getting benefited. Next is the saprophytic plants where the saprophytic plant is dependent on the dead and decaying plant or animal matter. Here no harm or anything is done here. And next is the insectivorous plants. Yeah, here they are trapping the insects for their food or for their nutrients. Okay, and next is the symbiotic plants where they are living in mutual gain, from where they are getting mutual gain from each other, not harming each other. So these are the 4 kind of heterotrophic plants. Okay, next, replenishment of nutrients in the soil. That means when a plant takes the nutrients from the soil is getting deficient in the nutrition. That means the plant is obtaining the nutrition from the soil. Okay, for example, like you see nitrogen mainly as we have read there. So when the nitrogen is obtained from the soil, the content of nitrogen in the soil, the level of nitrogen in the soil is getting decreased. Here a particular word is used, you can see depletion. Okay, depletion means decrease in the amount of nitrogen in the soil because the plants are using it for their growth. So slowly the content of nitrogen will get depleted, or you can say will get decreased in the soil over a period of time. So what happens? manures and fertilizers are used to replenish the nutrients. That's why the farmers, they use the manures and the fertilizers to replenish the nutrients. To replenish means to fill the gap, or you can say the amount of nitrogen that was decreased, that can be filled up by putting the fertilizers or manures in the soil. So that's what the farmers, they put the fertilizers or the manures so that the soil get the sufficient amount of nitrogen which can be utilized by the plant, okay, for their growth. Besides nitrogen, they also contain potassium and phosphorus needed by the plants for healthy growth. Okay, so how the replenishment of nutrients is done in the soil? By the help of manures and fertilizers. These manures and fertilizers are used so that the nutrients which are depleted, like nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, they can be replenished. Replenished means to fill the gap. The symbiotic association of rhizobium and leguminous plants such as the pea plant is a natural way of replenishing the soil with nitrogen. See, manures and fertilizers are artificial methods. That means we are manufacturing it and the farmers are using it to replenish it. But the natural way of replenishing the nutrients is seen in case of the leguminous plants. Leguminous plants, like one example is given over here, pea plant. Okay, in the pea plant, if you find, their roots contain rhizobium. Okay, the root contain rhizobium which helps in replenishing the soil with nitrogen. The rhizobium are such organisms which helps in converting the atmospheric nitrogen to such a form so that the plant can absorb it from the soil. Okay, the atmospheric nitrogen is converted to a proper form of nitrogen, so that like a salt, into a salt, so that it can be present in the soil. So sometimes the farmers grow leguminous plants alternately with other crops to restore the nitrogen content of the soil. So naturally, to replenish the content, nutrients, naturally the farmers, they sometimes grow the leguminous plants along with the other crops, and artificially they can use the manufacturers and fertilizers. So these are the ways how the nutrients can be replenished in the soil. Okay, that means they can be returned back into the soil. So here there is a question: identify the mode of nutrition in each of the following plants. So this plant, as we have seen, this is a cuscuta plant, right, which is a parasitic plant, and this is a Indian pipe, so it is a saprophytic plant, and this is the pitcher plant, which is the insectivorous plant, and this is the lichens, which is a symbiotic plant. Okay, so here the chapter gets over, and the notes for this complete chapter, okay, and the solution to the exercises, you can find it in my Telegram channel. So the link for my Telegram channel is provided in the description of this video. You can go over there, click on the link and join my Telegram channel, and there you can find the solutions and the notes to this chapter, complete solution and notes for this chapter. Okay, so I hope you like this chapter. It's such a beautiful chapter explaining about the nutrition in the plants, and if you liked it, so please like this video, share this video with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel Jyoti Knowledge Hub. Okay, and yes, don't forget to click the bell icon so that you can get the videos as soon as I upload it in my YouTube channel. Okay, thank you.